Hello, I'm Trevor Somerville, beef farmer from between Donegal and Pomeroy in County Tyrone. We run a range of systems here. It's mostly dairy calf to beef with some suckler cows, spring calving, and then some store cattle brought in to finish. Also use integrated beef schemes for Wagyus and Rose Veal. Every winter we tend to buy in between 40 and 50 drop calves. They tend to come in somewhere in the region of 4 to 6 weeks old. This last couple of years we've been just doing them sort of straight on to once a day milk. We'll buy them in around Christmas, January, and then they'll get fed just meal and silage once they're off milk, and then they'll be turned out to grass kind of late April. They'll stay at grass till sort of November time, mid-November or late November, and then they're just silage and maybe a kilo and a half of meal through the winter. Trying to target them in around that 450 to 500 kilos when they go back to grass, but they don't all do that. Then they'll get a period of grass up to sort of mid-August time, and hopefully they'll be in around that 600 kilos, maybe some bit heavier, 650, and then they'll be housed at that point to allow them to be finished then sort of about 80 or 90 days later. But it also allows me to build up a bank of grass to graze the younger stock out for as long as possible. So all the animals tend to be finished out of the house. Targeting a kind of a cark or live weight at slaughter of in around 750 kilos. There's highest closure content in that sward, and these is ones that they targeted maybe when they're coming in from grass in around that sort of first year grass, they came in around that 300, 350, 400 kilo mark. Then they got some of the clover bales added to their mix to try and keep them growing well. I'd use the baling as a rather than topping sort of thing, and then just target the nitrogen rates as required. If I'm short on grass, I'll use a wee bit more nitrogen. If I have plenty of grass, I'll maybe cut back or skip a rotation of nitrogen and try and let the clover establish a bit more. So these is the Wagyus. Started these maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I'm always up for trying something new, and I'm always trying to make money finishing the cattle. And I thought the stuff, and I suppose the way the beef is at the minute, buying stores and finishing them was always a gamble. So trying to get a kind of more of a secure price for them. So these are on a fixed price contract with then topped up on a marbling score, and then I run them for guts of 20 months and finish them in around the 2-year-old. They're all Holstein crosses mostly. There's half males, half females. They'll be castrated before they come to me, and all dehorned and vaccinated for pneumonia, and then they're just on male, introduced a bit of silage there. Because to do with the marbling and the meat that the Wagyu's renowned for, what they call early life development, they need to keep the energy up with them the whole way through their life. That starts from early on and carries on through to the finishing period. So then was the smaller calves that we've seen earlier. These is sort of what they look like 20 months or so later. These is just in around the 24 months, 25 months. Some of these is some of the bullocks of the Wagyu. They're coming up to near finish now. In terms of the scheme, it's a flat rate price. Like, it doesn't really matter about grade or fat. It's all to do with just the carcass and the marbling off them. So them bullocks has actually done reasonably well for me. They're 730 to 750 kilos there at the minute. They'll probably typically die out in just over 51%. So they're not a very high kill out percentage animal, but you hope that the marble score covers that. It is I suppose the premium is required a bit, because they do tend to take a wee bit more finishing period. Like, they talk between 5-6 months finishing on, as opposed to your maybe 60 to 100 days, depending for your other more traditional dairy type crosses. The weight gain now is a wee bit back on what your Angus or your Hereford or that sort of cross would do, but hopefully the marbling premium makes up for that. You sort of want a minimum of like a 3 equals 3 plus to try and the bullocks are a bit thinner. They're just being finished there on about 6.5, 7 kilos of meal. Half of that's made up of crimped barley this year, because a friend of mine grew it a bit and I bought some of them, so I'd used that as an experiment to try and maybe navigate the feed prices a bit, and then also try and stop shipping it all across the country if we can buy it a bit more locally. So it seems to have done them okay. I've just started to send some of the heifers, and they've been killing out reasonably well, and grading and fat classes, and there's good cover on them, and they've been actually marbling quite well. So there is a specific mineral pack in the meal for the Wagyus. It's to do with the marbling of the meat again. They require different levels of vitamins and to try and tweak it, sort of thing. So there's all that makes it a wee bit more challenging. But once you get used to it, it's kind of, they tend to run pretty much the same as any other animal. As part of well, they do it for all the cattle, but as part of the scheme, Wagyu, there's a farm management software provided, and you have to, as a requirement of that, is to upload weights to it every time to try and allow the factory to see the supply chain and what's numbers and what weights is coming through. Everything's recorded electronically on it, the medicine usage and feed, and all your quality assurance records is done on that too, using the mobile phone, and then weighing them. It's a true test clock there, and I'll try and link it up. I have thought about going EAD way, and hopefully eventually it will. Some of the animals is EAD tagged, and just everything would be easier, I think, if the EAD went on ahead. Just in terms of making everything can talk to each other via Bluetooth, and everything can become easy to link up. They're recorded using the True Test app, and then it links into the phone, and then that goes on to the farm management software, and then if it's any animal health things, it's just done there and then on the phone then. So I'm trying to keep the concentrate down to the minimum, sort of an acceptable level kind of thing, and just making use of good quality silage to put the weight on, and then that hopefully transpires to them still being fit to have a fat cover and a saleable weight by the time they're 24, 25 months old. Pretty much 90% of the animals on the farm meet the beef carbon reduction scheme. Unless some of the stores is maybe bought in a wee bit older, they don't. But to me, it's not an issue. We have been sort of doing this for 20, 25 years. They've all been going in around that 24 to 26 months. You could push them earlier, away sooner if you really wanted to. It's just depending on what your carcass weight, what target carcass weight. For me, I'm always targeting, with the bullocks, we're nearly all bullocks here, so I'm targeting in that sort of 380 to 420 kilo bracket for me bullocks. And then that's leaving me to pushing them in around that 2-year-old in around that time. Part of the PRISM project with ABP, there's a carbon footprint done on the farm too. So between it, the soil nutrient health scheme, all them sort of schemes to try and target improving the farm, and hopefully also making it a bit more environmentally friendly, and trying to cut back a wee bit on inputs, and hopefully still maintain levels output, if not maybe increase them slightly. We still need a wage at the end of the day, and it's trying to balance all them things up. So this is an hour batch on the integrated schemes. This is Rose Veal. I've started these a number of years ago. Yeah, they're like, it's an intensive diet, it's meal and straw, but they utilise your house during the summer whenever maybe your other animals is out at grass. They have to be sold around 8 to 12 months, so depending on what carcass weight you really want, you can either send them earlier or send them later. I would tend to keep them into that sort of 10, 11 months, depending on how much pressure I'm on for housing and stuff, trying to get that at least a 200 kilo carcass, hopefully maybe 220, 240, maybe up again that. Again, flat rate price, that I kind of know what I'm getting before I sell them. They're eligible for your beef carbon payment and stuff like that, so they tick a box on that end. And I suppose they have the dairy calf, no matter what breed it is, it has to have a market, and this is a market for them. This was a field that was one of the grass fields on the farm, so I thought I'd try red clover in it. It's a silage field normally, and the red clover established okay, but it seems to have been mostly white clover, but it's still a very good sort of silage sward. It hasn't received nitrogen from it was planted, so this is its 4th year now. The calves come off this. There was light stock grazed on it up until early December, and then it got slurry mid-February, and that's all it received since. They just sowed a bit of sulphur on it the other day, for sulphur is quite important in terms of, even if you're not the nitrogen and the sulphur, but if the protein, or if the clover supplying the nitrogen, the sulphur is still very important to keep the protein levels of that crop up, so it does require sulphur as well. Yes, the weeds are starting to come through it a wee bit, but we'll just maybe play it by ear and see, trying to spot spray, or else see if the red clover is if there's not much of it about, you can still use that Clover Safe spray on it. This will be cut now 3 times, and I might put the first cut in the pit and then bale it after that. But in terms of yield, it's probably 5 acres. I've took the first and second year was in around 100 bales come off it, so it tends to, and then plus a grazing at the end of the year as well. So I'm hoping to try, and I have planted multi-species in the farm in the past too, so hoping just to try these things and see how they perform here, and then if they work, if they don't, it's not the end of the world. You still end up with grass. As long as you undersow with grass or something, you'll always end up with some sort of a sward of stuff. In terms of markets and stuff in future, I'll always be looking out for what's coming from processors or from retailers or what. Or at the end of the day, I have to work with them as well as they have to work with us, in terms of what they want us to produce and what I want to supply them with, and hopefully that'll kind of both be profitable for me as well as them, and we'll just try continuing that there. And if there's anything in terms of future, in terms of like carbon or data and stuff like that there, in terms of if that's going to give us a premium market, then hopefully maybe I can tap into a bit of that there as well. I'm open to all them sort of things.